You keep waiting for the perfect moment, the big break, the sudden leap, but that's not how the rich rise. You must think beyond your current limits, but begin with what's right in front of you. Your strength is in your small daily actions done with purpose. When you move like a strategist, not a gambler, you build unstoppable momentum. You don't need more luck. You need to act like wealth is already yours, one step at a time. In a few moments, I will teach you why thinking big, but starting small is the richest strategy you'll ever learn. You must begin with a vision larger than your life. You are not here to drift through existence. You are here to create, to build, to leave a mark. And yet most people you meet settle into small thoughts, small ambitions, small lives, not because that is their fate, but because they never dared to imagine anything grander. You can feel it, can't you? That quiet desire inside, the whisper that says you were meant for more. But then comes the resistance. What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? But ask yourself, what happens if you never try? You must first give yourself permission to think bigger than the life handed to you. All achievement begins with an idea, one that pulls you forward, stretches your identity, and makes you uncomfortable with the ordinary. The man who dreams of building a great enterprise or leading a community or transforming his family's destiny, he is not arrogant. He is aware of the power of vision, and so must you be. Now, what does it mean to think big? It means you stop measuring your future by your current limitations. You do not look at your empty wallet and conclude poverty. You do not look at your surroundings and conclude permanence. Instead, you close your eyes and see in detail what others call impossible. But how do you hold that vision? You make it vivid. You define it. You write it down. You revisit it every morning and night. You speak it aloud until it becomes your standard. You make it so real in your heart that no doubt can erase it. Imagine you walk into a bare field, just soil and silence, but in your mind you see a house, a garden, a barn, a legacy. That's how great men begin, and you too must begin there. Have you dared to write down a vision that scares you? Have you stretched beyond what's comfortable and created a picture of your future that wakes you up early and keeps you up late? If not, why not now? The power is in starting small but daily. The grandest vision will rot in the mind of the man who never starts. Too many people make the mistake of waiting for the perfect moment to begin. They plan for years, they dream endlessly, but no seed ever grows without first being planted. You must understand this. What makes the rich, the powerful, the influential different is not the size of their beginning, but the consistency of it. Every towering oak tree began as a hidden acorn. Every mansion rose from a single strike of a hammer. So must your future rise from a single action repeated with discipline. Why is starting small the secret? Because that's the only way anything real begins. Big dreams overwhelm the undisciplined mind. Small steps sharpen your focus, build your habit, and feed your confidence. You do not climb the mountain in one leap. You take one step, then another, and then another, until the summit comes into view. What must you do then? Begin something today that echoes your vision. Write one page, make one call, study one principle, save one coin, wake 1 hour earlier. You may think it's too little to matter, but little things done daily build the foundation of greatness. Picture this. You rise at dawn while others sleep. You sit at your desk, you read, you write, you plan, you move your vision forward by a fraction. A week passes. A month, a year, and now that tiny step you once took, it has become the staircase. Have you been waiting for permission to begin? Stop. Start where you are, with what you have, and do not miss a day, because the man who starts small and stays consistent becomes the man others call unstoppable. Discipline is the currency of the rich. You may believe that money is the difference, that wealth comes from opportunity or luck or who you know. But the longer you live, the more clearly you'll see discipline is the true divider. It is what separates the dreamer from the doer, the follower from the leader, the poor from the rich. Every wealthy man, every great leader, every builder of nations was first a master of himself. He rose when it was hard. He worked when it was quiet. He said no when it was tempting. That is not punishment. It is preparation. Why does discipline matter? Because you cannot command the world until you first command your habits. Without it, your plans remain air. With it, your future becomes steel. What must you do? Build rituals. Wake before dawn. Guard your thoughts. Speak with purpose. Finish what you start. Take care of your body, your word, your work. Do what you said you would do, especially when you no longer feel like it. Imagine this. While others linger in comfort, you rise, dress, train your body, train your mind, not because anyone is watching, but because you refuse to be average. Each day, you deposit effort into the bank of your destiny. One coin, one brick, one act at a time. Are you trading your future for short-term pleasure? Or are you building discipline like a rich man stacks gold, with consistency, care, and commitment? The answer will determine the course of your life. Learn to value time, like the rich do gold. There is one thing you possess that is more precious than silver, rarer than diamonds, and more fleeting than opportunity: time. The rich do not merely manage their time, they protect it like treasure, because they know every hour wasted is a seed never planted, a fortune never built. And yet, how easily do men give away their hours in idle talk, in wandering thought, in comfort and routine, not realizing those hours are the building blocks of their fate. Why is time the true wealth? Because it is the only resource you cannot earn back. Once spent, it is gone. A man can lose his money and earn it again, but a man who squanders his time has lost what no vault can restore. What must you do then? Treat every hour like it belongs to your future. Set blocks of time aside for thinking, creating, planning, and refining your craft. Refuse to be a slave to distraction. Learn to enjoy solitude. Learn to focus. Learn to be alone with your vision until it sharpens like a blade. Picture this: 2 men live the same year. One fills it with purpose, skill, conversation, clarity. The other lets it drift by in ease. At the end of the year, they are no longer equals. One is 10 steps closer to his dream. The other is 10 steps deeper in regret. Are you guarding your time with the seriousness it deserves, or are you treating it like it's endless? The difference will show in your results, in your wealth, in your legacy. You must learn before you earn you. Say you want success. You say you want freedom. But let me ask you, have you earned the right to have it? Not in words, not in dreams, but in the daily work of learning the craft that leads to it. Most men chase money before they've built the discipline to hold it. They scramble for results before they've mastered the process. And that's why most men never truly rise. They treat wealth as a reward to be chased instead of a responsibility to be deserved. They want the crown without the weight. But wealth doesn't come to the loud, it comes to the ready. To the man who has forged his mind into a weapon sharp enough to cut through confusion, through chaos, through time. You see, learning matters more than earning, especially in the beginning, because knowledge is the foundation of sustainable power. Money without wisdom is a curse. It vanishes as fast as it arrives. But wisdom, that stays, that compounds, that turns every experience, every failure, every loss into raw material for greater victories. Without wisdom, one mistake can set you back a decade. But with it, you can rise from ruins. With it, you build something no storm can shake. So what must you do? You must train your mind like a soldier trains his body, relentlessly, quietly, daily. Read when others scroll, reflect when others speak, ask questions when others boast. Take notes, watch, learn, study the principles that govern success, study character, study how powerful men move, speak, react, command, not with jealousy, but with intensity. Their lives are textbooks, their habits are clues. Study them, and above all, practice, not in front of crowds, not for applause, but in solitude, in silence, when no one is watching. That's where greatness is born, not in spotlight, but in shadow. Turn your room into a war room. Turn your evenings into laboratories. Every idle hour is a brick in your future, or a crack in it. Imagine this: you're not wealthy yet, not famous, you work a modest job. But while others relax, you train. You read books no one else will touch. You memorize strategies no one else even knows exist. You ask yourself, what am I missing? What skill do I need? What principle am I violating? And every day, you fix one thing. You get sharper, you get faster, you build quietly. Then one day, the shift happens. Not in public, but in you. Your voice changes. Your eyes hold certainty. You walk with authority, because now you know. And when a man knows, not guesses, not hopes, but knows, he becomes unstoppable. So I ask you again, are you putting in the quiet hours that wisdom demands? Or are you still chasing rewards you've done nothing to earn? What would happen if, for the next 6 months, you studied like your life depended on it? Because the truth is, it does. Build a mind that does not depend on approval. There comes a defining moment in every man's journey, a quiet fork in the road, where he must choose, will I live for the applause, or will I live for the result? One path is loud, seductive, lined with cheers, likes, praise, and approval. The other is silent, uncertain, and often lonely, but it leads somewhere real. Most men choose the first. They spend their lives performing, not producing, speaking, not building. They chase recognition over results, validation over value. And that's why they remain ordinary. They talk like leaders but think like beggars, constantly asking the world for permission to be who they are. You must not be like them. Approval is the enemy of greatness. Why? Because it makes your soul dependent on the unpredictable moods of others. It turns you into a puppet. It strips you of your voice and replaces it with an echo of public opinion. And no man can rise while carrying the burden of needing to be liked. You cannot be bold and agreeable. You cannot command and conform. A man who is afraid to be disliked is also afraid to be different. And if you're afraid to be different, you'll never be better. To become powerful, to think big, to act rich, you must be willing to offend the average. You must be okay with being misunderstood, doubted, mocked, and even hated. Why? Because greatness always begins in opposition. The crowd will never cheer for the man who walks ahead of them. They will resist him until he wins. So how do you build this unshakable mind? You begin by questioning your motives. You strip your actions bare. Every word you speak, ask, am I saying this to express truth or to perform safety? Every decision you make, ask, is this who I am or who they want me to be? You practice solitude. You get comfortable with silence. You become your own mirror, your own jury, your own source of approval. And you elevate the people around you, not those who flatter you, but those who sharpen you. Surround yourself with truth tellers, not comfort givers. Picture this. You share an idea, your peers laugh. They say, it'll never work. But you don't flinch, you don't argue, you simply nod and go to work. Days pass, then months. A year later, the same men who once mocked you now come seeking your advice. What changed? Not the world's opinion, but your results. And the results came because you didn't need their applause. You had your own conviction. So I ask you, are you still secretly waiting to be told you're good enough? Or have you declared once and for all that your future is not up for group discussion? Build a mind that doesn't beg for approval, and you'll build a life that no one can deny. That is power. That is freedom. That is respect. Act with certainty even in uncertainty. The path to greatness is not paved with certainty. It is riddled with doubt, fog, and noise. It rarely looks like a golden road lined with signs that say success this way. More often, it feels like walking blindfolded through a storm, unsure of what's ahead, but moving anyway. That's the truth no one tells you. The journey doesn't begin with confidence. It begins with motion. And clarity, that comes after you've stepped, not before. Most men freeze because they're waiting for the moment when everything feels right. They want to be sure before they leap. But that moment never comes. The world doesn't reward the hesitant. It doesn't pause for the man who waits. It keeps spinning. And those who move, even with trembling legs, are the ones who gain ground. Success is not about perfect timing. It's about making a decision and honoring it with consistent, relentless action. Every giant you've ever admired, every king, every tycoon, every conqueror, had to move forward while surrounded by unknowns. What made them different wasn't certainty. It was courage clothed in decisiveness. Fear makes men stall. They want guarantees. They want to know it'll work before they risk looking like a fool. But here's the secret. It's supposed to look messy in the beginning. It's supposed to be unclear. If it were obvious, everyone would do it. The path is hidden not to punish you, but to filter you, to see if you have the will to walk before the map appears, to see if you'll keep building when no one is watching. That is the test of every great man. Will he trust himself enough to move without applause, without assurance? Success isn't built by avoiding risk. It's built by becoming the kind of man who moves anyway. The rich and powerful aren't braver by nature. They're simply more decisive by habit. They've trained themselves to act, to gather enough information to start, and then figure the rest out on the way. They know that perfection is the enemy of execution, and they know that waiting too long kills more dreams than failure ever could. So what must you do? You train your reflex to move. You stop needing the full picture before you act. You set a plan, however rough, and you begin. You walk straight into the storm with your principles in hand. You trust that your preparation has power. You trust that your values will guide you. You trust that movement brings momentum and that the man who refuses to stop cannot be stopped. Picture this. Two men are offered the same opportunity. One sits down and starts analyzing. He asks questions. He waits for the perfect scenario, for the stars to align. The other gathers what he can in a day and starts building. He makes mistakes. He learns. He adjusts. A year later, the first man is still on step one, still wondering, still asking. The second man is profitable, powerful, already onto his next move. Why? Because he didn't wait for certainty, he created it through action. So let me ask you, where in your life are you hesitating? What decision are you postponing because you're waiting for a sign? What if the sign isn't coming? What if you are the sign? What if the very moment you move, the path will begin to unfold? You must stop waiting for clarity to strike like lightning. You must stop hoping for a perfect moment. Instead, create the moment. Decide, commit, act. Do it messy. Do it confused. Do it unsure. Because hesitation is the death of momentum, and momentum, once built, becomes your greatest ally. Understand this: greatness is not the reward of the perfect, it is the reward of the bold. The man who moves in uncertainty becomes the man who commands certainty, because he didn't wait for it, he earned it, step by step, decision by decision, battle by battle. So go. Right now, move toward what matters. Not when it's easy, not when it's obvious, but especially when it's messy. That is how leaders rise. That is how fortunes are built. That is how you become the man you were meant to be. Create before you consume. You were not born to sit quietly in the corner of life, watching others make history. You were not designed to spend your days scrolling, watching, reacting, and applauding what others have dared to create. No, you were born with hands to build, a voice to declare, and a mind to shape the very fabric of your world. Inside you is the spark that built cities, wrote books, launched revolutions, and raised empires. And yet, how many waste that fire? How many spend their entire lives consuming but never contributing? Look around. We live in an age of infinite information. People read endlessly, listen to podcasts, devour videos, and quote experts. And still, they are stuck. Still, they feel hollow. Still, they have no mark to show for it. Why? Because consumption without creation is spiritual stagnation. It gives the illusion of progress while quietly robbing you of real power. Your mind becomes full, but your life remains empty. Knowledge becomes noise without expression, and wisdom dies unused. This matters more than you think, because creation is the highest form of growth. When you create, when you write your thoughts, when you share your perspective, when you build something out of nothing, you activate a deeper part of your brain, your will, and your purpose. You don't just learn, you become. Creation is transformation. It takes the unseen potential inside of you and gives it form, shape, and weight. It demands courage. It reveals character. It turns scattered thought into sharpened vision. And this is why you must start with it. Before you absorb the world, you must add to it. Set creation as the first act of your day, not the last. Don't begin with scrolling. Don't begin with opinions. Begin by declaring something of your own. Write a few sentences, sketch a plan, speak an idea aloud, plant a flag, take a swing, put your fingerprints on the day. Before anyone else's opinions, mark your mind. Even if it's rough, even if it's awkward, even if no one sees it. That's not the point. The point is discipline. The point is momentum. Every time you create, you reinforce the truth that you are not a passive consumer of life. You are a builder. And builders don't wait to feel ready. They get to work and figure it out along the way. Imagine this. You wake up before the noise begins, the world is quiet, the light is still dim, and while others sleep or stumble into distraction, you create. You open your journal, you draft a rough chapter, you record your thoughts, you outline a plan, you shape the invisible into something visible. 1 hour later, you've already grown because you've done something. You haven't just prepared, you've planted. You've claimed a piece of the day as your own. That's power. That's ownership. Compare that to the man who wakes and immediately reaches for comfort, for input, for distraction. He begins by absorbing what others think, feel, and believe. And by noon, he wonders why he feels lost, why he lacks clarity and drive. It's because he forgot to create. He forgot to act. He forgot to lead his own life before letting the world lead him. So let me ask you, are you starting your days as a builder or a bystander? Are you creating or are you hiding behind consumption? Are you expressing your own mind or outsourcing your identity to the noise around you? Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't wait for inspiration. Don't wait to be asked. Begin now. Begin small, but begin. Write something, no matter how ugly. Speak something, no matter how uncertain. Build something, no matter how broken. Because the man who creates daily, even badly, will one day outrun the man who waits to create perfectly. The world is shaped by doers, by builders, by men who risk being misunderstood, mocked, ignored, but they press on. And in time, they don't just consume greatness, they become it. So rise, create, repeat, and watch the world bend slowly to the shape of your hands. Choose pain now or suffer later. No man escapes pain. That is not a pessimistic view. It is a universal law. The only decision you truly control is when you will face it. Do you take it head on right now while you still have breath in your lungs and fight in your bones, or do you run from it, postpone it, cover it up with distractions only to be met by it later, stronger, colder, and wrapped in the cruel costume of regret? Make no mistake, success is not an escape from pain. It is an embrace of it. It is the choice to suffer now, on your terms, so you can live free later. The successful know this. They don't chase ease. They endure the discomfort early. They taste the bitterness of rejection, discipline, sacrifice, failure, not because they enjoy it, but because they understand it. They've made peace with a truth most men run from, that pain is not your enemy. Avoiding it is. Why is this truth so often ignored? Because comfort is seductive. It has a soft voice. It wraps itself in justification. It tells you just one more day, just one more excuse, just one more hour of rest. You'll start tomorrow. And the dangerous part is it feels reasonable. It feels like it cares about you, but it doesn't. Comfort is not your friend. It is the subtle assassin of potential. While it offers warmth in the moment, it slowly robs you of the life you could have had. Look closely at the men who have wasted their lives. They didn't fall all at once. They didn't make one massive mistake. They made small, comfortable decisions again and again. They hit snooze. They avoided confrontation. They said maybe later when the moment was now. And those small choices became chains. Chains of missed chances, untapped strength, and unearned success. That's what happens when you delay pain. It doesn't disappear. It grows teeth. It turns into guilt, anxiety, weakness. The pain you delay becomes the prison you must live in. But there is another way, a better way, a way only the strong choose. You face the pain early. You do the thing that others flinch from. You speak the truth others bury. You show up when it's inconvenient. You lift when it burns. You keep your word when no one else will. You train your mind to say, I will suffer now, so I don't have to suffer later. How do you do this? You begin with the small pains. You make them your training ground. You wake up before the comfort sets in. You eat what fuels you, not what soothes you. You sit down to work while others scroll. You choose the awkward conversation over polite silence. You reject the easy win in favor of long-term mastery. You don't do it to appear noble. You do it because this is the forge. This is where your will is shaped into steel. Pain, when chosen, becomes a tool. Each day you build. Imagine this. You wake up, and before the world has time to distract you, you select your hard task. One thing, one challenge. Maybe it's writing that chapter. Maybe it's making that call. Maybe it's sitting in silence and facing your thoughts. And you do it, not halfway, not with resentment, fully, with resolve. And then you do it again tomorrow, and the day after that. At first it's small, but over time it compounds. You start to change. You stand taller. Your voice carries weight. Your decisions gain authority. When pressure comes, you don't shatter, you respond because you've practiced pain. You've befriended it. While others were busy avoiding discomfort, you were building endurance. While others prayed for ease, you trained in storms. And this is where true power begins. Not in talent, not in comfort, but in the daily choice to embrace what burns. That's the kind of strength that cannot be borrowed. It cannot be faked. It must be earned through effort, through discomfort, through persistence. So now ask yourself honestly, are you trading a little pain now for a mountain of regret later? Are you giving away your future in exchange for an hour of ease? Or are you brave enough, disciplined enough to face what hurts today, knowing that on the other side lies a life of freedom, clarity, and strength that most men will never taste? The choice is always yours. Pain is coming either way. But when you face it now, on purpose, you control the terms. You write the story. You become the kind of man who doesn't just survive adversity, he commands it. Choose pain early. Choose effort deliberately. And watch how your life bends in your favor, not by chance, but by conquest. Wealth follows the man who solves problems. Look around you. Every towering building, every billion-dollar company, every innovation that changed the way we live, each of them began the same way. A problem that someone refused to ignore. It wasn't brilliance alone. It wasn't luck. It wasn't connections. It was responsibility. One man, one woman stood in front of a mess and said, "I'll take care of this." That's the root of all real wealth. Not in complaining about what's broken, but in deciding you'll be the one to fix it. Most people never take that step. They spot what's wrong, but their instinct is to step back. They point fingers, they analyze, they gossip, they share opinions, but never solutions. They become spectators in a world built by doers. They shrink in the face of friction. They think, "That's not my job. Why should I bother?" Or someone else will handle it, and so they stay where they are, unnoticed, undisturbed, unrewarded. But wealth, the kind that lasts, the kind that frees you, only comes to the man who moves toward the fire, not away from it. When others freeze in uncertainty, you must be the one who takes command. When confusion spreads, you offer clarity. When a system fails, you restore order. When a team wanders, you set the direction. This is not about being a hero. It's about being useful, indispensable. That's what separates those who are remembered from those who are forgotten. The real question is not, can I do something great, but will I take ownership when no one else will? Because that's where greatness begins. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, where problems pile up and everyone's too afraid or too indifferent to act. That's where leaders are forged. But how do you become this kind of man? How do you train yourself to solve instead of complain, to act instead of retreat? You start with what's right in front of you. No grand gestures, no perfect plan, just one simple commitment. Find one problem each day and fix it. At work, that might mean redesigning a clumsy process. At home, it could be repairing something that everyone's ignored. In your craft, maybe it's refining a system or improving a skill. It doesn't matter how small it is. What matters is the habit, because when you train your mind to seek problems with the intention to solve, you train yourself for leadership. It's a mindset, a posture, a pattern of response. And with every solution you offer, with every mess you clean up, you become more trusted, more respected, more valuable. Trust, after all, is the currency that precedes all others. Solve enough problems and people begin to follow you, not because of your title, but because of your effect and influence. Real influence always finds its way to income. Picture it. You walk into a room. It's disorganized. People are standing around. No one knows what to do. Most are waiting for orders. Some are checking out entirely, but not you. You scan the room. You assess. You start assigning tasks. You draw up a plan. You bring structure to the chaos. No one asked you to. No one gave you permission, but you stepped up, and everything started to move because of it. That habit alone, acting without being asked, fixing what others ignore, solving what others complain about, that is what can elevate you beyond your position. That is what separates those who rise from those who plateau, because the man who solves becomes the man who leads. And the man who leads becomes the man who earns, not just money, but freedom. So ask yourself now, are you waiting for someone else to fix things? Waiting for a mentor, a boss, a government, a miracle? Or are you becoming the man who sees the problem and moves? The man who doesn't just talk about what's wrong, but starts making it right. The world doesn't need more critics. It doesn't need more spectators. It needs builders. Men who take responsibility, not just for themselves, but for the world around them. That's the secret the rich have known all along. Solve bigger problems and you earn bigger rewards. Solve consistently, and the world will start coming to you, not the other way around. So start now. Start small. Find something broken today and make it better, and then do it again tomorrow. Build the habit of solving, because while others sit and complain, you will rise. Complain, and you shall remain. Solve, and you shall rise. Speak little, say much. Power isn't always found in volume, it's found in weight. A man can shout all day and be ignored. Another can speak a single sentence and command a room. Why? Because the power of words doesn't lie in how many you use, but in how you use them. If you've ever sat in a meeting or at a dinner table and watched the difference, you know exactly what I mean. One man is constantly talking, hoping to sound important, to be noticed, to fill the air, but all he accomplishes is drowning in his own noise. Then there is another man, quiet, calm, still. He watches, he listens, and when he finally speaks, everyone goes silent. Not out of fear, but out of respect. That's the kind of presence you must build. To earn that kind of influence, you must train your tongue like a weapon, sharpened, measured, and used only when necessary. Speak not from impulse, but from intention. Speak not to be heard, but to be felt. The richest and most powerful men don't waste words. They don't panic in silence. They don't fill space just to seem involved, because they understand something most men never learn. Silence is not weakness, it's leverage. Why does silence command attention? Because it creates mystery, and mystery is rare in a world addicted to noise. When a man doesn't rush to speak, people wonder why. When he doesn't blurt out his thoughts, others assume he knows something they don't. That assumption creates gravity. People lean in. They listen harder. They take his words more seriously, not because the words are loud, but because they are rare. We value what is scarce. And in an age where everyone is trying to be heard, the man who holds his tongue stands apart. But it's more than just optics. It's about discipline. Speaking slowly, carefully, intentionally forces you to think deeply. It sharpens your judgment. It makes your communication surgical. And in moments of pressure, that clarity becomes your weapon. You don't ramble. You don't react. You respond. And the man who can respond instead of react becomes a pillar. Others look to him, not because he forces them to, but because they trust him to bring order to noise. This kind of power is not born overnight. It's trained. It's earned. It begins with slowing down. Catch yourself before you speak. Ask yourself, is this necessary? Is it useful? Am I speaking from truth or from emotion? Make it a habit to ask more questions than you answer. Let your curiosity guide conversations. People are drawn to those who listen well. And if you listen long enough, people will tell you exactly who they are, without you having to say much at all. Imagine this. You walk into a room where egos are loud. Men talk over each other. Everyone is trying to prove something. But you sit in stillness. You watch. You observe the dynamic. And when the time comes, when the room begins to spiral, you lean forward and offer one clear sentence, measured, firm, calm, and suddenly the chaos quiets. People turn. They look to you, not because you took control, but because you held control. That is not accident. That is not charisma. That is trained restraint. The world may tell you that to be successful, you must dominate conversations. You must be louder, faster, more aggressive. But watch the truly powerful. They are often the quietest in the room, not because they're shy, but because they understand the value of presence. They don't need to fill space with sound. Their presence speaks before they do. And when they finally talk, the words land, like a hammer, like a verdict. So ask yourself, are you letting your tongue betray your mind? Are you speaking just to be seen, to be liked, to be accepted? Or are you training yourself to speak only when it matters? The difference is everything. One path leads to noise, confusion, and being forgotten. The other builds presence, respect, and long-term power. This discipline of speaking less and meaning more is one of the most underrated skills a man can master, and it's one of the clearest distinctions between those who chase attention and those who command it. Learn to sit in silence without discomfort. Learn to observe without the need to insert yourself. Learn to hold back until your words can shift a room, not just fill it. Because in the end, power isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the clearest, the calmest, the one everyone turns to when it matters most. Speak less, mean more, and watch how quickly the world begins to listen. Master boredom, and you'll master the world. You will not always feel inspired. You will not always wake up with fire in your chest or vision in your eyes. Some days will feel lifeless. The work will be dull. The steps will be slow. And that, right there, is where most men quit. Not in the chaos, not in the hardship, but in the monotony. They mistake the silence for failure. They interpret boredom as a sign to stop. But the truth is this: boredom is not your enemy, it is your confirmation, a quiet signal that you are on the path of mastery. Every man wants the rush. Every man wants the spark of beginning, the thrill of a new goal, a new idea, a new routine. But the men who reach the peak are the ones who keep climbing when the scenery becomes familiar, when the steps become mechanical, when the noise of excitement fades into the quiet sound of steady effort. That's what separates those who dabble from those who dominate. Most people never finish anything because they expect the feeling to stay. But the real ones, the builders, the creators, they work beyond feeling. Why do so many avoid boredom? Because it exposes them. It shows their lack of endurance. It strips away the illusion of passion and forces them to confront the question, am I truly committed? People don't want to face that, So they chase novelty. They jump from one thing to the next, always moving, always starting, never finishing. They want stimulation, not substance. Movement, not progress. And that's why they stay average. Because excellence is built in the days no one claps for you, in the hours when your work feels invisible, in the weeks where no results appear, but you show up anyway. Greatness isn't built on adrenaline. It's built on discipline, repetition, precision, showing up when it's cold, when it's quiet, when the world offers you 100 easier options. To master anything, a craft, a career, a business, a body, you must learn to fall in love with the routine, the grind, the simplicity of doing the same thing again and again, not because it's exciting, but because it's essential. So what must you do? You must practice presence in the dull moments. You must teach yourself to show up when your mind offers you every excuse not to. You must hold the line when the thrill is gone, when the applause fades, when no one is watching. Discipline is not just waking up early once. It's doing it every day, even when it feels like nothing is changing. It's writing when the page feels dry. It's lifting when your body is tired. It's practicing when the results are invisible. That is where power is born. Imagine this. You rise in the morning. You feel nothing. No spark, no motivation. The sky is gray. The task ahead feels like yesterday's task. You could quit, you could take the day off, but you don't. You sit down, you write, you build, you train, you follow the plan day after day, week after week, a month passes, then two, and you look back, not at fireworks, but at progress. Quiet, undeniable progress. Your hands move faster, your thoughts come clearer, your body responds with strength, not because of one explosive moment, but because of every boring one you endured. This is how mastery works, not in bursts, in waves, quiet, deliberate waves of effort that build into something unshakable. And the man who understands this becomes dangerous, because while others quit the moment it gets repetitive, he grows, he sharpens, he compounds, and when the time comes to perform, he is ready, not because he was lucky, but because he was loyal to the process. Ask yourself now, are you willing to become a master, even if it means boredom, even if it means silence, solitude, repetition, and doing the same unglamorous task every day until it's burned into your bones? Or are you still chasing the high, still running toward what's new instead of what's needed? If you can learn to endure the repetition, to find strength in the routine, you will unlock something that most men never will. You will become consistent, and consistency is the real magic. Not talent, not luck, not passion, but the ability to show up again and again without needing to feel like it. The world crowns those who keep going when others stop, those who stay when the excitement fades, those who build in boredom. So embrace it. Boredom is not your signal to stop, it is your signal to double down, to go deeper, to grow roots. That's how excellence is earned. Mastery is repetition. Repetition is discipline. And discipline, quiet, patient, relentless discipline is where greatness is born. Let your results speak louder than your words. You will meet many men who promise the world. They talk fast. They talk loud. They say what they think people want to hear. They chase attention like it's currency. They speak with confidence, with swagger, with fire in their tone. But there's nothing behind it. No discipline, no follow-through, no quiet nights of effort that built the foundation. These are the men who want to be seen before they've done anything. They crave recognition without contribution, and while they may capture a moment of applause, they never build anything that lasts. If you want to rise above these men, don't follow them. Don't play the game of appearances. Don't waste your energy proving what hasn't yet been built. Spend your energy producing, building, becoming. Let your work speak long after the noise of others has died out. Because here's the truth that will never change. The rich, the powerful, the respected, they do not talk to be noticed. They talk only when silence is no longer an option. When their results are so real, so undeniable, that they demand attention without asking for it. Why does this matter? Because in the end, noise fades. It always does. People forget what you said. They forget what you claimed, but they never forget what you built. They don't remember your promises, they remember your proof. A man who delivers results without advertisement becomes the one others admire in secret, because he carries what no speech can create, quiet authority. Anyone can make a claim. Anyone can say, I'm going to do this, I'm meant for that. But it takes another kind of man to disappear into the work, to let go of the spotlight and embrace the grind. That man understands something deeper, that results are not born in performance. They are born in persistence, in solitude, in the thousand silent decisions no one claps for. And that kind of proof, it holds weight. It walks into a room before the man does. It commands respect, not with noise, but with substance. So what must you do? You must practice restraint, discipline your tongue, guard your vision. You don't need to announce what you're building. You don't need to narrate your journey to everyone you meet. In fact, the more you explain, the more you drain your energy. Talk becomes a substitute for action. Don't fall into that trap. Protect your ambition like a secret weapon. Sharpen it quietly. Test it in silence. Build without validation. And when your work is ready, let the results do the talking. Do not explain your potential. Prove it. Let your transformation shock them. Let your absence be a question and your return be the answer. Stay silent long enough that your progress speaks for itself. Let people wonder. Let them guess. And when the time comes, when the project is complete, when the skill is undeniable, when the results are visible, they will have no choice but to see what you built. Not because you told them, but because you showed them. Imagine this. You step away for 6 months. You say nothing. You make no grand declarations, no social updates, no performative talk about how hard you're working. You simply disappear into the process. Each day you wake and put your head down. You train, you build, you refine. No applause, no one watching. Just you and the task. Time passes quietly, steadily, and when you return, the difference is undeniable. Your skills are sharper, your results are real. Your confidence is not a performance, it's been earned. And those who once doubted you, they fall silent. Not because you argued with them, not because you proved them wrong with words, but because you returned changed, stronger, sharper, respected. That is the power of silence. It is not weakness, it is a tool. A form of strength few understand. And when used properly, it becomes your armor. It protects your process from the noise. It shields your ambition from distraction. It keeps your energy where it belongs, in the work, not in the performance of working. So ask yourself now, are you more focused on sounding successful or on becoming successful? Are you chasing the look of progress or the substance of it? Do you spend your energy trying to convince others, or are you committed to convincing yourself through action, through discipline, through results? The world is full of voices, loud ones, empty ones, boastful ones, but it remembers the men who did not need to speak because their results made speech unnecessary. You don't have to announce your greatness. You don't have to narrate your journey. Just live it. Build in silence. Let your efforts stack. Let your transformation be your answer. And when the time is right, when your work is complete, you will not have to say a word. Your results will say everything. Your environment is either feeding you or draining you. You might believe that your willpower is enough, that you can rise above any obstacle, any temptation, any distraction, through sheer force of will, that if your goals are strong and your mind is focused, nothing can pull you off course. But the truth is this, even the strongest man cannot grow in poisoned soil. A disciplined mind cannot thrive in a chaotic environment. A sharp ambition will dull in the midst of laziness. If you are truly serious about becoming wealthy, focused, and respected, not just for a season but for life, then you must take control of the one thing most men ignore, the environment that shapes you. This is not a motivational phrase. It's a law of reality. Your surroundings sculpt your behavior. They influence your choices long before you even realize it. Every piece of clutter around you, every unnecessary noise, every idle voice, it all begins to lower your standard bit by bit. And here's the dangerous part. It happens quietly. You won't feel your decline in a moment of collapse. You'll feel it in your gradual tolerance for mediocrity, in your slow acceptance of disorder, in the subtle decay of your own focus. Why does this matter so deeply? Because your environment is not passive, it is active. It does not sit in the background. It shapes your thoughts, your posture, your decisions, and your default state. If you live in disorder, your mind will reflect that. If you walk among the undisciplined, your habits will adapt to theirs. And if you surround yourself with noise, with mess, with people who joke more than they build, you'll start to forget what real standards look like. You'll convince yourself that your goals are intact, when in truth your environment has already buried them. Look closely at where you live, where you work, and who you spend time with. What message are they sending your mind? Is your space clean, clear, and purpose-built? Or do you find yourself in conversations that drain your fire and lower your aim? You must not underestimate this. Even kings need clean castles. Even warriors need clear training grounds. You can't train your mind for war when your house is a battlefield of clutter and noise. You can't build financial power if you're surrounded by people who joke about money and treat discipline like a punchline. Excellence cannot grow in an atmosphere that praises ease and mocks effort. So what must you do? Begin with your space. Clean it not just once, but as a way of life. Make it a reflection of your seriousness. Let order in your environment be the first step to order in your thoughts. Remove the clutter that gives your mind excuses to drift. Put things in their place, not because it looks good, but because it feels sharp. Clarity in your surroundings leads to clarity in your direction. Next, examine your circle, not with anger, not with arrogance, but with honesty. Who do you let speak into your life? Who do you text, call, listen to daily? Do they push you higher or pull you sideways? Do they speak with direction or distract you with meaningless noise? You don't need to cut everyone out, but you do need to prioritize those who remind you of who you want to become. Proximity matters more than you think. A wise voice over breakfast can change the tone of your entire day. A lazy one can ruin your next 5 years. Then, assess your daily paths. Where do you go? What spaces do you enter? Do they challenge your discipline or comfort your weakness? Even your routines have atmospheres. Are you starting your day with stillness and direction or noise and confusion? Does your schedule reflect your ambition or is it a collage of distractions stitched together with false productivity? Now imagine the alternative. You rise to silence. No distractions, no clutter. Your room is clean. Your desk is ready. You check your mind. You open a journal. You plan. You reflect. You prepare. When you work, you work. When you train, you sweat. When you rest, you truly rest. Not escape through entertainment, but renew. Around you, the people you meet are building things. They speak with weight. They move with purpose. You don't need to brag because your results begin to speak. You don't need to chase motivation because your environment supplies it. This is not fantasy. This is what happens when you engineer your environment to reflect the man you're trying to become. It is not about perfection. It's about alignment, about making your surroundings match your standards. Because if your environment makes excuses, you'll start to believe them. If your environment says it's okay to slack, you will. But if your environment says this is a place of progress, your body, your mind, your actions, they'll follow. Ask yourself honestly now, are you building an environment that matches your goals or one that excuses your weakness? Are you walking through each day in a space that sharpens your mind or softens your standards? Are the people in your life elevating your focus or eroding it through distraction? You cannot bloom in polluted air. You cannot grow in a garden of weeds. You cannot become a disciplined man in an undisciplined world unless you design your world first. Fix your surroundings. Shape your space. Curate your circle. Let your home, your schedule, your company all become allies in your growth. Because in the end, you will not rise above your environment. You will reflect it. Build an environment worthy of your ambition, and your ambition will begin to rise and respond in kind. Choose purpose over pleasure. Every time the richest men in history, those whose wealth extended beyond gold into character, discipline, and legacy, did not live for the thrill of the moment. They lived for something greater. Each of them learned a hard but unshakable truth. When you chase pleasure, pain follows close behind. But when you chase purpose, deep, clear, and demanding purpose, pleasure follows too. Not as a fleeting high, but as a byproduct of a life well lived. It arrives late, but when it does, it stays. You must decide which man you want to be, the one who feeds on comfort or the one who is fed by meaning, because life is full of offers. The easy route is everywhere. There's always a way to relax, delay, numb, and justify. But the man who accepts too many comforts begins to weaken without realizing it. He believes he's enjoying life, but he's trading his edge for entertainment, his focus for fantasy, his time for triviality. What he gains in dopamine, he loses in destiny, because pleasure, while tempting, is a thief when pursued as a goal. Why does this matter so deeply? Because pleasure is addictive. It offers a fast reward but leaves you emptier after. It teaches you to expect satisfaction without struggle. You start to feel entitled to ease. You begin to believe you've earned it after every small effort. But that cycle softens you. It dulls your ambition. It turns sharp men into passive ones. It rewires your instincts to seek escape instead of endurance. And worst of all, it makes pain feel meaningless. But pain isn't the enemy. Pain has always been the price of becoming someone more. What gives pain its power is purpose. When a man has a mission, even the hardest days feel sacred. The sacrifices feel necessary. The grind feels like honor, not punishment, because purpose gives context. You're not just waking early, you're preparing. You're not just saying no to distraction, you're saying yes to a future only you can see. With purpose, even the fire you walk through becomes fuel. Every challenge becomes proof of your path. Every lonely hour becomes sacred ground. So what must you do as a man who is no longer content to drift? You must set a clear aim, not just a vague wish, not a fantasy you talk about when you're bored, a clear, demanding, measurable aim, something that stretches you, something that sharpens you, something that wakes you up in the morning with fire in your chest. Write it down, not once, but every day if you must. Repeat it until it's carved into your spine, and then test everything you do against it. This is how the disciplined man thinks. Does this action bring me closer to my mission, or is it just relief in disguise? Because most temptations don't come with a warning. They don't announce themselves as dangerous. They come clothed in kindness. You deserve this. You've worked hard. Just take a break. But when you look closer, you realize it's not restoration, it's escape. It's not refueling, and if you allow too many of those detours, you'll wake up one day miles away from the life you meant to build. Purpose demands sacrifice, but it rewards with depth, with pride, with peace. The kind of peace that only comes from alignment, when your actions reflect your values, when your habits mirror your ambition. That's what you're really after. Not the surface level pleasure of another night off, another show, another indulgence. You're after something lasting, something with weight. Imagine this, you're offered comfort, a night off, a party, a detour. Everyone around you smiles and says, "Come on, you've earned it." They speak from a place of softness, from lives built around feeling good, not doing good. And for a second it's tempting, but then you remember what you're building. You remember the cost of compromise. So you say no. You return to your task, not with resentment, but with resolve. You stay with your plan. You keep your promise to yourself. And that decision, made quietly, with no applause, becomes another brick in the fortress of your future. Years pass. And when you finally look up, you don't just have more money in the bank or more titles on the wall. You have something rarer. You have pride. Pride in how you earned it. Pride in the path you chose. Pride in the man you became while others drifted. That kind of pride cannot be purchased. It must be forged in fire, in silence, in repetition, and in purpose. Pleasure will come. You don't have to chase it. It will arrive, stronger and more satisfying, because you earned it, not by seeking it, but by building something that matters. The man who builds his life around pleasure becomes a slave to it, but the man who builds around purpose becomes a master of it. Ask yourself now, and ask without flinching, are you choosing what feels good or what does good? Are your days shaped by intention or impulse? Are you more committed to your goals or to the small comforts that quietly kill them? The answers will not be found in your dreams. They will be found in your daily choices, in your morning routine, in how you spend your evenings, in whether you sit down to build or lie down to numb. Your life is not shaped by what you intend, but by what you tolerate. You'll know who you are by what you're building or by what you're escaping. You can't do both. You can't build a kingdom while running from the discomfort it takes to rule it. You can't leave a legacy while choosing pleasure over progress. So choose purpose, not because it's easy, but because it's right, because it's yours. Because the man who lives for purpose may struggle, but he never regrets. And in the end, the pleasure he finds is deeper, fuller, and more enduring than anything the world could offer. Purpose first, pleasure later. And when it comes, it lasts. Become the person you would admire most. People drift through life without a model. They imitate whoever is around them, not because those people are worthy of imitation, but because they're present. They copy the habits of coworkers, the mindset of friends, the values of social noise. They conform, not consciously, but by slow erosion. Without direction, they become mirrors of their environment, reactive, uncertain, unfocused, and eventually they wonder why their life feels small, why they lack fulfillment, why they feel lost. The answer is simple. They never chose who to become. If you want to rise, you cannot follow that pattern. You must not wait for someone else to show you the way. You must become the kind of man you would follow, not the kind of man who seeks approval, but the kind who earns respect. First, from himself. That means studying yourself with ruthless honesty, not flinching at your own weaknesses, not excusing your flaws, but dissecting them, holding them up to the light, and then, not with shame, but with discipline, carving yourself into someone better, sharper, stronger, someone you once believed was rare. Why is this so important? Because becoming your best self is not just about you. It is not vanity. It is not about pride or perfection. It is your duty. The world is not suffering from too many examples of integrity. It suffers from the lack of them. Weakness is common. Cowardice is loud. Distraction is marketed daily. So if you complain about poor leadership, if you criticize the lack of standards around you, then you must ask, what are you becoming? Because you cannot cry out for strength in others while refusing to develop it in yourself. The truth is, someone is always watching. A younger brother, a colleague, a friend, a son, a stranger. They watch how you act when it's hard. They notice if your words match your discipline. And whether you like it or not, you are either becoming an example or an excuse. That's why this work matters. Not the work you do for show, but the work you do in the dark, when no one is watching, when no applause will follow. That's where your character is forged. So what must you do? You begin with clarity. You strip away the noise and ask, what kind of man do I admire? Not what job he has, not how much money he makes, but who he is, how he carries himself, what virtues he embodies, what discipline shapes his habits. Think of the men who made you pause, not because they were loud, but because they were centered, calm in chaos, honest in pressure, composed in crisis. That's what you aim for, not perfection, but presence, not power, but principle. Write those traits down, not in some grand dramatic list, but with sacred intention, honor, strength, courage, wisdom, self-restraint. Write them plainly, then hold them like a mirror to your day. Ask yourself, did I speak like a man of honor today? Did I show strength, even when it was uncomfortable? Did I act from fear or from wisdom? This is not a single moment of change. This is daily alignment, hourly correction, one small quiet choice at a time. And this journey doesn't require performance. You don't need to post about it. You don't need to announce your transformation. In fact, don't. Let your life prove it. Let your posture, your tone, your consistency be the evidence. Start in private. That's where true greatness begins. You're tired, but you still show up. You're angry, but you respond with control. You're tempted to lie, but you don't. That's the man you're becoming. And you'll know it, not because others cheer, but because your own respect for yourself grows. Imagine this. 1 year from now, you look in the mirror, not just to see your face, but to meet your character. You remember the days you almost quit, but didn't. The nights you wanted ease, but chose discipline. The times you were afraid, but acted anyway. And something shifts, not externally, but deep inside. You admire the man in front of you, not because he's perfect, but because he earned your respect. And when you respect yourself, your voice changes, your walk changes. Your decisions stop seeking validation and start expressing conviction. That's not ego, that's alignment. There is power in becoming someone you would follow, because when you walk that way, others begin to follow too. Not because you told them to, but because your life became a compass. And there are few things more powerful than a man who leads without a title, who guides without needing praise, who lives in such a way that others grow just by being near him. But this doesn't happen by accident. And it doesn't last without commitment. You must ask yourself hard questions and not run from the answers. Ask, if I met the man I'm becoming, would I follow him? Would you trust his word? Would you admire his discipline? Would you let your son learn from his actions? If the answer is no, then adjust. Don't justify. Don't delay. Adjust. Because you're still in control. That window of transformation is still open. But it doesn't stay open forever. Every year you waste becomes a habit you'll later have to break. Every compromise you allow becomes a weight you'll have to carry. So act now. Not tomorrow, now. This world does not need more opinions. It needs more examples. Men who do what they say, who think before they speak, who rise when it's difficult, who live not for attention, but for alignment with what they believe. Be that man. Not for praise, not for applause, but because the world is watching. And more importantly, you are watching. You are shaping your own legacy in every decision you make. So begin. And remember, this is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming the man you were meant to be. Someone rare, someone true, someone even you admire. And that is the kind of man the world will never forget. Greatness is a long game. Play it that way. The world tempts you with shortcuts. Every ad, every headline, every new trend whispers the same lie. You can have it now. Quick wealth, instant results, overnight fame. Society is obsessed with speed, with urgency, with the illusion that success can be microwaved. But those who've truly built something that lasts, those whose names are etched in stone, whose wealth remains across generations, whose character stands when others fall, know something far more powerful. They know that nothing lasting is ever built in a rush. This truth is not glamorous, which is why so few accept it. But if you seek real greatness, financial, personal, or spiritual, you must learn to reject the temptation of speed and embrace the discipline of slow, patient, compounding work. Because the rich in mind and money understand greatness is not a moment, it's a mission. One earned over years, sometimes decades, of intentional effort, constant refinement, and quiet sacrifice. It's built while no one is watching. It's shaped in silence, far from applause. Why does this matter so deeply? Because impatience is a silent killer. It has destroyed more dreams than failure ever could. The impatient man does not lose because he's incapable. He loses because he expects too much too soon. He plants a seed and demands a forest, a single decision, a single compromise. Like a house built on sand, even the most impressive exterior collapses when the foundation is flawed. The world may be fascinated by what you have, but it is who you are that determines whether you keep it. And if you've built your empire on dishonesty, on arrogance, on shortcuts and manipulation, you may gain fast, but you won't last. Character is the bedrock. It is the part of you that wealth cannot buy, but that wealth depends upon. It is the quiet force behind your actions when no one is watching. It is the compass that guides your decisions when applause is absent and temptation is near. In a world that praises appearance and speed, character is rare. But it is also the one thing that turns a man into a legacy. Why does this matter more than ever? Because the world is filled with men who have the right credentials, the right words, the right image, but no weight. They sound impressive. They know what to say. They win attention. But when pressure comes, when the storm arrives, they fold. Why? Because they were built for display, not for endurance. They knew how to shine, but not how to stand. Character matters more than credentials, because people do not ultimately follow your titles, they follow your truth. You might gain followers with style, but you keep respect with substance. A sharp mind can open doors, yes, but a trustworthy heart is what keeps them open. Deals are signed with logic, but they're sealed with trust. Without it, your influence decays from within, slowly at first, then all at once. A man who manipulates his way to success walks with a timer in his pocket. He may not hear it ticking, but it is, because corruption cannot support longevity. The moment truth reveals itself, the empire falls. Wealth built on deception rots from the inside, and when it collapses, it takes everything down with it. Reputation, relationships, peace. But the man who builds with integrity, who tells the truth even when it costs him, who honors his word when it would be easier to forget it, that man is dangerous in the best way. His influence cannot be undone by rumor. His wealth cannot be stolen by slander. His presence alone commands trust, because those around him know this man does what is right, not what is easy. So what must you do to become that man? You begin where it counts most, in private, when no one is clapping, when no spotlight is shining. You examine your inner compass every day. You ask yourself, did my actions today reflect my values? Did I keep my word even when it was inconvenient? Did I do the right thing or just the easy thing? These questions aren't meant to shame you, they are meant to shape you. You must build integrity into your routine. Like a muscle, character is developed through repetition, through hard, honest choices made over time. Do you correct yourself before anyone else does? Do you admit when you're wrong? Do you return what doesn't belong to you? These are the invisible acts that create visible power. The world may not see them, but your future is built on them. Imagine this. You're presented with a shortcut. It's profitable. No one would notice. It's easy to justify. Just a small lie. Just a slight twist. Everyone else is doing it, but something inside you says no. Not because you're afraid of getting caught, but because you know who you are, and who you are does not compromise for comfort. You decline. You walk the harder road, and for a time it looks like you've lost. Others rise faster. Others get the praise. But a decade later, everything changes because your reputation has become gold. People speak your name with trust. Doors open, not just because of what you do, but because of how you do it. Opportunities find you. Partnerships seek you out. And every success you achieve carries peace with it. Not fear, not pressure, not paranoia, but peace. Because you know, I built this right. That is the reward of character. Not just wealth, but enduring wealth. Not just influence, but earned influence. And not just a reputation that shines, but one that stands. When others fall, you remain. When storms hit, you bend, but you don't break. Because your foundation is deep. Ask yourself now, without hesitation, are you building a life that looks good or a life that is good? Are you curating an image or forging a soul? Are you chasing recognition or building resilience? These questions matter because the day will come when your life is tested, not by opinion, but by pressure. And in that moment, you won't rise to your goals. You will fall to your character. The beauty of this truth is that you are always in control. You may not control your background, your circumstances, your luck, but you can control your conduct. You can choose to be the man whose word is iron, whose honesty doesn't shift with convenience, whose humility keeps him grounded when praise comes, and whose courage keeps him upright when criticism arrives. Character is the real currency. And in a world obsessed with more followers, more fame, more money, it's the man of integrity who ends up with the most, because what he earns lasts. What he builds stands, and who he becomes inspires. You don't need to announce your character, just live it. Speak when it matters, keep promises when no one's checking, do the small things right, because those small things become everything. In time, they form a reputation you could never fake, one that draws others in, not for what you have, but for who you are. So build slowly, build right, build beneath the surface, and remember, you cannot control every storm. But if your character is sound, you'll never be destroyed by one. That, more than any bank account, is the ultimate security. Begin now, or stay the same forever. There comes a time when all the thinking, all the reading, all the planning and preparation must be put down, and action must begin. You've circled the idea in your mind long enough. You've refined the plan, adjusted the details, imagined the steps, played it over and over in your thoughts. But imagination without action turns to dust. The time for envisioning has passed. The time for movement is now, not later, not when you feel more ready, not when things feel clearer, because they won't. Readiness is a myth for those who fear risk, and clarity comes after you take the first step, not before. You already have what you need to begin. Not everything, not the final version of your skill, your resources, your network, but you have enough to start. And that is all life ever requires of you. The next level won't unfold until you begin the climb. That's the nature of growth. You don't get the full blueprint first. You earn it with motion. You take one step, and the next one becomes visible. But if you waiting for certainty, for confidence, for the right time, you will wait yourself into regret. Delay is a dream killer. Not because it's violent, but because it's quiet. You don't feel it ruining you in one day. You feel it over months, over years. It shows up when you look around and realize you're still in the same place, holding the same excuse, fearing the same change. And deep down, you've felt this before. You've tasted the bitterness of hesitation. You've lost time before, time you won't get back. So the question becomes, will you repeat it? Will you stand still again, or will you move? Why is now the most important time? Because tomorrow will not come with more courage. It will come with more distraction, more excuses, more delay disguised as logic. Tomorrow will ask you to wait just a little longer, to tweak the plan, to research more, to get your energy right. But that's how years are wasted, one excuse at a time. And before you know it, 5 years have passed, then 10, and nothing changed. Not because life held you back, but because you held yourself back. No tool is coming to save you. No book will unlock the door for you. No mentor, no money, no divine spark will suddenly appear and lift you into momentum. The only power that can move you forward is your decision. And the beauty of that truth is this: it's available right now. You don't need permission. You don't need applause. You need resolve. That's it. So what must you do? Something, anything, not the whole plan, not the 10-year vision, just the next step. That small action you already know you need to take, the one that doesn't feel big enough to matter, but matters more than anything. Write the letter, send the message, make the offer, begin the savings account. Wake up an hour earlier, say no to one small distraction, start the outline, make the call. Whatever it is, do it. Because momentum doesn't come from thought, it comes from motion. And motion, even tiny motion, creates clarity, confidence, and progress. There is power in the first step. The second step gets easier. The third becomes habit, and soon you're not thinking about starting, you're thinking about finishing. That's the gift of momentum. It rewards the brave, not the loud, not the clever, the brave, the one who moves first, who acts before he feels ready, who does it scared, uncertain, imperfect, but does it anyway. Imagine this. You stand at the edge of a better version of yourself. He's stronger, sharper, wealthier, more focused, more respected. He carries himself with discipline. He wakes up with purpose. He's built the body, the business, the balance you've dreamed about. He is not a fantasy. He's a future, but he only appears after you act. He lives on the other side of hesitation. And every moment you delay is a moment you choose to not become him. One moment of boldness changes everything. One act of courage alters your direction because the act itself reshapes you. It redefines you. You stop being someone who plans and start being someone who builds. And that identity shift will do more for your future than any strategy or script ever could. So ask yourself, honestly, what have you been putting off? What have you told yourself you'll start when the time is right? How many times have you replayed the idea in your head without touching it in real life? What have you been avoiding that you already know is necessary? This is that time, not tomorrow, not next Monday, not next year when the stars align. Now you've been given this moment for a reason. You are reading this message for a reason because life is calling you to move, to stop stalling, to stop waiting for someone to drag you forward. No one is coming. You must decide, act now, and you will never be the same. One decision leads to the next. One courageous step leads to strength. The path does not appear before you walk. It appears because you walk, and each day you delay adds weight to your regret. The man who never begins never becomes, but the man who starts, even humbly, sets the world in motion. This is your moment, not to finish everything, not to solve it all, but to begin, to rise, to become the man you were meant to be, not someday, but now. Start small, but start. Start uncertain, but start. Start without perfection, but start, and you will never be the same again. Own more by wanting less. The rich are not owned by their possessions. That is what most people get wrong. They see wealth and think of piles of things, cars, watches, houses, clothes, and they think the more a man has, the richer he must be. But the wise know something different. The truly rich possess, but they are not possessed. They can own what they want, yes, but they are not owned by what they have. Their identity is not tied to an object. Their pride is not tied to a price tag. Their worth is not measured in glitter, but in control. You must learn this early, because if you don't, your desires will master you. And once that happens, it's only a matter of time before you become a slave to the very things you thought would make you free. Chasing every new thing, every pleasure, every upgrade. It looks like freedom at first, but it's a trap disguised in shine. You get caught in the chase. One desire leads to another. One item leads to needing the next one to feel satisfied, but the satisfaction fades and the hunger grows, and soon your life becomes a loop of consumption, never fulfillment. If you do not discipline your appetite will discipline you. Slowly, quietly, you will find yourself working longer, stressing more, just to maintain appearances, just to hold on to things you once thought you needed, things that now own you. You'll find yourself in rooms filled with people who don't care about you, wearing clothes you bought to impress them, drowning in debt, losing sleep, and calling it success. But simplicity, simplicity. It is not weakness, it is strength in disguise. It is the mark of a man who knows who he is, a man who is no longer seduced by glitter, a man who has tasted discipline and found it more satisfying than indulgence, a man who has chosen clarity over clutter, and that man is dangerous in the best way. Because he cannot be bought. He cannot be manipulated. He does not flinch when things are taken from him, because he never built his worth on them to begin with. Why does this matter so deeply? Because the man who needs less is harder to control. He is free, free to speak the truth, free to walk away, free to wait for the right deal, the right opportunity, the right time. He doesn't jump at every offer. He doesn't panic at every loss. He moves with calm power. Because he is not hungry for everything, he chooses deliberately. And that is real wealth. Not in how much you can buy, but in how much you can walk away from. So how do you become this kind of man? You train your eyes. You stop comparing. That's where it begins. You stop measuring your worth by someone else's life. You stop scrolling through images of men showing off the surface of things, because that's all it is, surface. You look deeper. You ask, does this bring function? Does this bring meaning? Or is it just decoration for a man who's uncertain of who he is? You learn to measure your life by purpose, not possessions. You take pride not in how loud your lifestyle is, but in how sharp your direction is. You live beneath your means, not because you have to, but because you want to. Because you know the difference between display and durability. You focus on building something strong, something that lasts, a reputation, a habit of delayed gratification. And while others are buying to impress, you're building to endure. You say no when others say yes. You restrain when others indulge. You wait when others rush. And that patience, it pays, because when the storms come, when the economy shakes, when others panic, you remain calm. Why? Because your life wasn't built on the edge of your income. You have margin. You have room to breathe. You have control. Picture it. While others are chasing the latest trinket, spending money they don't have to look like people they don't admire, you're moving in silence. You're saving, investing, building skills, building a foundation. And at first, it may look like you're behind. You're not flashy. You don't flaunt. But fast forward a few years. They have clutter. You have freedom. They have debt. You have leverage. They have to say yes to every job, every demand, every request, because their lifestyle demands it. But you can say no, because you've learned to need less, and that means you own more. That is power. Not the kind they sell you on billboards, but the kind that doesn't blink when the world shakes, the kind that makes you untouchable, because nothing outside you controls you. Your needs are simple, your goals are clear, your habits are firm, and your discipline is deep. Ask yourself now, are you being pulled by every desire? Are you chasing the next thing because you truly want it, or because someone made you feel like you need it? Are you buying because it serves your life, or because it serves your ego? These are not small questions. They are the dividing line between peace and pressure, between wealth and illusion. Do you rule your wants like a king, or do they rule you like a master? Because the man who has not mastered his appetite will always be poor, no matter how much money he makes. He'll always need more, always chase more, always be one purchase away from feeling worthy. But the man who learns to master his desire, to want only what serves his mission, that man becomes invincible. And once you learn this, you will never beg again, never borrow to impress, never chase something that weakens you. You will walk your own path, quietly, strongly, without apology. So start now. Reduce the noise, cut the clutter, refuse what weakens you, choose what strengthens you, and remember, the less you need, the more power you gain. That is the hidden wealth the world doesn't talk about, but the wise live by it, and you must become one of them. You don't need a fortune to start, just a clear vision, a steady hand, and the discipline to begin small. The rich don't rush. They plant seeds, protect them, and let time compound their power. Now it's your turn. Think bigger than your fears, act smaller than your pride, and build like your future depends on it, because it does. Stay focused, stay patient, and above all, act like success already belongs to you, because it will, if you do.